Hey everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of the CouchSide Sports Report.
Yoda.
I'm Simon, that's Dylan, and you're here with us on another Tuesday morning, or whenever you're listening to this podcast, whether it's on Spotify, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's somewhere we haven't uploaded it to. And if it is, do let us know.
Definitely,
we're not in
please.
control of it yet. But we're here just to talk about all the latest and greatest in sports news and to give our very qualified takes on it. Dylan, how's it going?
Yeah, pretty good, man. It's been, I can't lie, as you know, but people listening won't. Last week for me was a little bit of a rough one.
It was a bit of a roughie.
But we got through it. A bit of a roughie, but we got through it. We're here and ready to talk some sport, man, because we've got some... we don't have as much as usual.
No.
But there's some exciting stuff coming up.
There's a lot of great stuff coming up today. And before we get into it, be sure to like us and follow us on everywhere if you haven't already. Obviously, you're listening to us now, so you must be followed somewhere. Or you found us through the great gracious of just luck. So
Yeah, but it's a good point.
we'd love you to stick around. Please like or follow us wherever. We will hopefully have more content on our social media platforms coming up very soon, whether it be TikTok, whether it be Instagram, all of those places. But we hope to upload there soon and would like to do more stuff on YouTube.
Yeah,
Eventually, more longer form stuff. See us go out and about, dip our
Let's
teeth
go.
into some things. But hey, we've got nothing planned if you want us to see something in particular.
Do something. Yeah.
Just let us know in the comments, and we'll have a look and we'll get into it.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Yeah, but like Simon said, go and follow us on everything, couchside.network, specifically on the TikTok and the Instagram. But yeah, like you said, if you're listening to this now, you could probably find us somewhere. If not for the beautiful thing that Simon calls luck, but I call the algorithm. So
Yes.
I call
Luck,
the
algorithm, it's the same thing, really. Just a fancy name.
There you go. But shall we get straight
I think we
into
should.
the local sport? Because we're going to start, of course, with the rugby. All Black squad got selected.
Yes.
Their first game is this coming Saturday from when we're recording. This coming Saturday, July the 5th, they are playing France.
Yes.
The France B team.
Yeah, basically the French B team. There are 17 uncapped players in this French squad, which have still travelling, I believe, to New Zealand. There's no players from the teams which were in the top 14 final yesterday morning, which makes sense because they've played a very grueling season since September, and their last game was only this coming weekend. I believe Toulouse won that, to absolutely no one's surprise. Or was it Toulon? Whatever one of the twos is still in the comp. But
Too loose or too long.
Exactly. But we're not talking about top 14 today. We're talking about the Lippe Vitamin D July series.
Let's go.
Featuring the All Blacks and the French team.
Yep.
So like Dylan said, first test is on Saturday, but there have been some slight changes to the squad since we last recorded.
Yes.
All injury enforced. Now, unfortunately, Wallace Atiti was ruled out of the series completely with a knee injury, which saw Christian Leo-Willie full-time promoted.
It wasn't a knee injury. It was a high ankle
Sorry,
sprain.
I got my knees and my ankles mixed up already. So Satiti is out, and Leo-Willie was promoted permanently to the All Black squad for this series, and
sir.
replacing him at his injury cover, to the happiness of Blues fans, although we're not happy that Satiti is out injured.
No, of course
but we
not.
are happy that our brother Dalton Papali is back in the All Blacks, even his injury cover. It's good to see that
We'll take it.
he's not completely forgotten. I don't think he'll play this week, or at all, unfortunately, because he is just injury cover for Luke Jacobson.
True.
Because he's still going through concussion protocols after his brutal brief knockout during the Super Rugby final, which
I would never shake the look because I was watching this. I will never shake the look that I saw when Luke Jacobson got hit in the head in this final.
It was almost like a cartoon how he went down.
Literally,
it was a bit crazy. And then today we found out that unfortunately Tamaiti Williams himself is out of the series as well, as he needs surgery on a torn meniscus. Now you reckon this could be a season ender, but there was nothing online suggesting that was the case. We'll just have to see what happens with Tamaiti Williams. Obviously was our starting loose head prop last season.
Yeah, so and you did ask me earlier today about a meniscus. So the reason I said it might be quite a while, Derek Rose,
Yes.
he's injured his meniscus. He was out for quite a while. That actually changed the way he played. But that was actually the ACL before that point. Russell Westbrook spent a whole year away I'm pretty sure, because of a torn meniscus. So it depends. I just searched it up quickly. I'm no doctor, by the way.
No,
but pretty much it depends on the severity of the tear.
Yes.
So for a minor tear, it could be a few weeks.
Oh yeah.
Or it could be several months for more serious for a more serious tear. So it depends on the seriousness of the tear, and then it depends on Tamaiti Williams' genetic body to be able to recover from it. So yeah, but no, still sad. You don't want to see any injuries, but I will say shout out to Dalton for coming into the squad, even though it's injury cover, and even though it should have been in the first place.
Yep.
And at the same time, George Bauer has come in to get some experience in their cover for Tamaiti Williams.
Whose name I hadn't yet said yet, but yes, George Bauer
there you go.
Is the injury call-up for Tamaiti Williams, former All Black himself. Hasn't been in the squad since 2022. I believe he spent an entire World Cup year injured, or a majority of it in 23. Hence why he didn't feature that year, and in 2024 he was overtaken and maybe injured as well. So good to see George in there. He's a bit more experienced. Makes sense why he got the nod instead of someone like Josh Fusitua.
Yeah.
And obviously Ofatuanga Fasi is still injured. So looking into Saturday, almost said Friday, it will be interesting. I have a feeling we will be naming our strongest team. And if I quoted the internet correctly, the breakdown basically confirmed today or yesterday that Billy Proctor is starting at outside centre for this test, which doesn't surprise me at all.
No.
I think no one's surprised by this. There has been pictures circulating of Rieko Ioane training in an 11 bib at All Blacks training camp, which has raised a lot of eyebrows, with people suggesting he might be selected on the wing. But we will both suggest what we think is going to happen with Rieko Ioane.
Yes, sir.
And we've both decided that we are going to basically, with this game coming up, Dylan,
yes,
we're both going to pick who we would have in our match day 23 for the first test against France, knowing which players are injured and knowing what we know that someone's probably going to start at 13.
Yes, that someone is probably going to start at 13, but you can't say his name.
Oh, I know.
Do you not like the Hurricanes that
much?
No,
we have to create suspense.
Okay.
But I'll go first, and we're going to do this quick fire very quickly.
Pop off.
My starting front row, to absolutely no one's surprise, is Ethan de Groot, Samisoni Takiaho, and Tyrell Lomax.
Okay.
My starting locks, Scott Barrett and Tupavai. My loose forwards, and this is where it gets very interesting indeed, but I think we're going to see Same Penifino at 6, Duplessis Kadafi at 7, and his starting debut, or just debut at all for the All Blacks.
Yes, it is, yeah.
And then Adi Savia at number 8. My halves, Cameron Roygaard picks himself, number 10, Beauden Barrett.
Yep.
And this is where it gets a bit interesting. My centres, I'll go with Geordie Barrett, and using the knowledge we know from the breakdown, not Rieko Ioane, sorry.
Oh, he always made the mistake.
I always did. Billy Proctor. So I've got Geordie and Billy starting centre.
Who said that on the breakdown, by the way?
No idea.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll take it.
We'll take it. My fullback is Will Jordan, and then my wing pairing, I'm going to go bold. I'm going to say that it's going to be Severis on the right, which I just think that's what Razor's going to pick. Yeah. And I think he picks Rieko on the left. I think that's a very big call. I think he's going to experiment a bit. And then on the bench, Cody Taylor. I'll pick George Bauer over Ollie Norris, and then I will go with Fletcher Newell as the other prop, and then I'll have Patrick Tuipulotu just for that versatility, that experience. Sorry, not versatility, experience on the bench. My backup loose forward will have to be Christian Leawilli, although I could see that being Dalton Papali. Scrum half, Noah Hotham. Isn't Noah Hotham? Isn't Cortez? I'm rapping through this way too quickly.
I was about to say, you can breathe a little bit. You can breathe.
I'm like, I have to say it, but I'm saying the wrong name.
First of all, let's go back. Can you say your reserve props again?
Okay.
And hooker, sorry.
So, George Bauer.
Okay, you got George Bauer?
I got George Bauer.
I almost thought you said George Bell, but you said George Bauer.
George Bauer.
Yep.
Fletcher Newell. Yep. And Cody Taylor.
Okay, there we go.
Patrick Tuipulotu for his experience over Fabian Holland. He will play later in the series for sure.
Absolutely.
I've got Christian Leawilli as he's the only other fit loose forward, although this could be Dalton. Maybe. I've got Cortez Ratama as my backup scrum half.
So you've got Cortez.
And then I've got Damien McKenzie on the bench. And then I have a plethora of potential wingers
I think
and centres to have, and I think I just got an inkling it's going to be Timothy Tavatavanawa.
Jim, the difference. You have said that. You have said that to me off mic.
I'm gonna
off camera.
I'm gonna quickly
Tim.
gonna quickly roll through this again.
Yep.
So we can clip it. I'm cutting this out in the edit. So props. Well, sorry. Starting lineup.
Yeah.
I've blanked.
Do you want me to go through?
No. I got it. Okay.
So you had Ethan de Groot,
So
Samisoni Tokiaho,
Get-
Tyrell Lomax.
Yep. So my starting lineup will be Ethan de Groot, Samisoni Takiya. Jesus, I'm losing my mind.
So it's only we're recording this on a Monday. It's only Monday.
It's only Monday. So starting lineup, you've obviously got Ethan de Groot.
Yep.
You've got Samisoni Takiaho, and then you've got Tyrell Lomax.
Yep.
Thing that picks itself at this point. My locks, obviously, I've got Scott Barrett, the captain, and you've got Tupou Vaa'i, the best lock in the country.
Yep.
The loose forwards, you've got Same Penifino,
Yep.
since Wallace Atiti's injured. You've got Duplessis Kirifi, and then you've got Adi Savea, and then you have Cam Roygaard with Bowden Barrett, in my opinion.
Yes, sir.
In the centres, I've got Geordie Barrett and Billy Proctor. At fullback, I've got Will Jordan. Don't even think about moving him to the wing. And
Please.
then on the right wing, I've got Severis, and my big gut feeling is Rieko Ioane will start on the left. And then on the bench, I've got George Bauer alongside Fletcher Newell, and then I've got Cody Taylor, so it's an all Crusaders front row coming off the bench.
Yep.
I've got Patrick Toipulotu for that experience, that veteranness in the lock position, although Fabian Holland will get that opportunity later in the series.
Definitely.
And then I've got Christian Leawilli on the bench, as is the only other full-time flanker. Unless Luke Jacobson is fit, then he would go there.
Yep.
And then I'll have Cortez Ratama as my backup half. Damien McKenzie is the black backup fly half, and then Tavatavanawa as the 23.
All right.
So Dylan,
There you go. You got through it, mate.
I got through it.
Yeah. So I here. So I'll just go straight through mine. So I've got Ethan de Groot.
Mm-hmm.
I've got Cody Taylor.
Fair enough.
And then I've got Tyrell Lomax, although I do think Tokiaho will eventually, whether it's in future this year, he'll be the starting hooker at least at the World Cup. Then you've got Scott Barrett, Tupou Vaa'i. I have got Same Penifino. I've got Duplessis Kirifi, and I've got Adi Savea at 8. Then, although I think they'll want to play Adi Savea at 7. Number 9, Cam Roygaard. Number 10, Bowden Barrett. I actually think that's a duh pick for me, but that is personally because, and I've said this multiple times, Damien McKenzie is the perfect number 22. Perfect. Then at centres, man, I really want to go with my trend of putting Geordie Barrett at 13, but I don't think that's going to happen. But we'll go Geordie Barrett at 12, and we'll go with the breakdowns man, Billy Proctor, at 13. I've got Sevu Reece on one wing. And I am not falling for the hype.
No.
I think they'll start Caleb Clark on the other side. Will Jordan at the back, like you said, don't move him. And also, speaking of fullbacks, I'm going to say this very quickly. Stop with the Ruben Love on the wing videos, people. Go back to Wellington.
Yeah.
Then on the bench, Samisoni Tokiaho at backup hooker. Then I have got, I've got Ollie Norris. I'm going to have Ollie Norris off the bench. I think George Bauer's coming a little bit too quickly to be able to go there. I think it should be Ollie Norris anyway. Fletcher Newell at the other backup tight head prop. I agree with you. Patrick Tuipulotu, you've got to have that experience. Christian Leawilli. So what happens when you pick 5 loose forwards?
Yep.
Although Christian Leawilli, I'm not saying this, definitely deserves to be an All Black. You can go back to the previous video to see that I actually say that. Then you've got Cortez Ratama, Damien McKenzie, and number 23, Rieko Ioane.
Yeah.
And that's that's the team I think will start against France on Saturday.
And it's a very good team. Both of those teams are very good teams.
Yeah.
And I think regardless, since the French team's pretty inexperienced, we'll be hoping to run out comfortably. Winners there, I'm not going to say 13 plus. Like I'm going to say, I feel like we should be good. We'll be at home. The French team's inexperienced. If we lose any of the games, I think we need to be a little bit questioning what's going on.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty confident that we can comfortably win this first game and hopefully win the remaining games as well.
Yeah.
Reminds me of the series we had with the French 12 years ago when they came here in 2013 with just, I think it'll be that type of series where we won the first game pretty comfortably. The second game was a bit of a close one, and then we thrashed them in the third game.
Yeah.
And also a series where we got those great clips of Rene Ranger bumping off guys.
That's
like it was
right.
fun back when Rene Ranger was considered an All Black.
Throwbacks, man.
Throwbacks. But that's basically it for rugby, apart from the one and only Māori All Blacks,
Yes,
whose brief season kicked off on Saturday. They took on the Japanese 15 in Tokyo, and despite trailing 17-15 at halftime, they went on to win 20-53, running in 6 unanswered tries in that second half.
4 of those tries, Blues players as well.
Yeah, Blues players in that team, in the forwards and the backs. Got to see a little bit of, Zan Sullivan again playing at fullback. He missed a lot of rugby this year, so good to see him playing there.
True that.
Xavier Taeli coming off the bench. The captain is Kurt Eklund, obviously, a long-time Blues guy. So, yeah, a good dominant win for the Māori All Blacks. And they take on Scotland, although without all their stars as there with the Lions, which we'll talk about later. They play them in Whangarei at 3:35 p.m. on Saturday, so that's a nice little game to watch if you're able to. There'll be a lot of pride on the line, a lot of mana, obviously. The game being played in Whangarei, I think, is going to be awesome. It's one of the two, I think, historic home grounds for this side. It's either there or it's at Rotorua, or Rotorua, sorry. So
true.
it's in either one of those places that's going to be just a dominant home game for the Māori All Blacks.
Saturday's quite the international day for All Blacks rugby anyway, because you've got which we'll talk about as well, the under-20s. They're playing Georgia at 4 a.m. on Saturday. Then you've got the Black Ferns, I believe.
Yes.
Playing the Black Ferns A or Black Ferns 15.
So that'll be a really good game to see which Black Ferns could maybe cement a place in the World Cup squad. They did announce their latest team today, I think, for those games, and it was mostly the same team we've seen already this year with a couple of new faces, a couple of players injured.
Yep.
But we will talk about the Black Ferns in more detail next week after that game, and obviously leading into the World Cup in England later this year, where they'll be hoping to defend their World Cup win from 3 years ago, actually.
Yes, it's just good. Oh, no, it was 4 years ago because it's 2021.
But are you sure it's not played the year after?
No, because 2020 was a COVID year. They played it in 2021.
I thought it was the 2021 World Cup played in 2022.
Nah, it was.
Are you sure?
Yep. You can carry on talking rugby. I'm going to double check it.
But really, the only other thing about rugby we have to talk about is the under-20s game that Dylan just mentioned. They play Georgia at 4 a.m. on Saturday morning in their second game of the World Rugby under-20 Championship. As this morning, they beat Italy very narrowly, 14-5 in Italy. You watched this game. You said it was quite scrappy. I read a bit of it. We were lucky not to have 2 red cards. But a win is a win, unfortunately. I was right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I think from the under-20 All Blacks, they just need to screw their heads on a little bit heading into the next games. Georgia should theoretically be an easier opponent than Italy, although you can't be sure these days. And then we have Ireland in our group, which you never know with them. They could be really good. They could be fairly average. At least we don't have a South Africa or a France in our group, because at U20 level they are very scary.
Yep.
And we will talk about that later. But moving on to a competition neither of us really watched last week, and probably for good reason, is the NRL. Couple of results. The Panthers, a huge win over the Bulldogs, 8-6 to start off the week. And we'll skip a couple of games here because we don't need to go over all of them. But the Raiders bet the Knights, and if you notice, the Bulldogs lost. That means the Raiders have now overtaken the Bulldogs on top of the NRL table.
Big plays.
And then the Warriors unfortunately travelled to Brisbane and suffered a 26-12 loss. Now, I didn't watch much of this, but what I know, we couldn't get firing. Both Luke Metcalf and Chance Nickel-Klokstad left the game at various parts, both suspected to be knee injuries. This is not a good thing. It's a thing the Warriors had to deal with last year, with players constantly getting injured. It's what they've had to deal with this year, players constantly getting injured. Sometimes we've played better when we've had more of our star guys injured, but sometimes we have really missed a lot of those guys. I think what people are expecting is that we will see Tanner Boyd from the New South Wales Cup team given an actual run in the team, which will be nice to see because he's been dominating for the Warriors reserve team. So it'll be interesting
and
to see.
Our New South Wales Cup team's been just going off in general.
I think they've
anyway.
been undefeated in 11 games or something. Like,
crazy.
The talent in that team is just insane.
True that.
But that's really all I have to say about the Warriors. Neither Nickel Klukstad or Metcalf are expected to be fit for the next Warriors game in 2 weeks' time. And in terms of other games in the NRL, the Dolphins, I think we said last week, Dolphins Rabbitohs, if you're going to watch a game, watch this one because it's probably going to be a tri-fest, and we were correct. 50-28 the final score. The Dragons just having an absolute ball of a time there. Even the Storm, a huge win over another competitive team in the Sharks, 30-6. And then we have our little table update. So like we said.
Before you do the table update, you've done it again.
What have I said?
The Dragons having a whale of a time, is it?
Well, they also had a whale of a time against the Eels.
They did.
But the Dolphins had a whale of a time, I should say. The Dragons beat the Eels 34-20.
Yeah, man.
But the Raiders and the Bulldogs are both on 29 points, but the Raiders are ahead of them on points difference. Your Storm are third. I think they might actually be 28 points, sorry. The Storm are third on 26 points, and then the Warriors are still fourth on 24, but they're only 4 points ahead of the Broncos and the Roosters, who are fifth and sixth respectively. We're hoping we beat the Broncos and would cement that top 4 space by a more larger point difference, but that's unfortunately not happened. The Panthers are 7th, which is crazy, 19 points now. And the Dolphins are 8th on 18 points. I have mistyped this like a crazy person.
We can't be perfect all the
time.
time.
No, we can't be perfect all the time. But the Dolphins are actually level on points with 3 other teams, the Sea Eagles, the Sharks, and the Dragons. So that 8th spot is very, very, very competitive. The Titans are still bottom of the table on 12 points, but they're only 6 points off 8th, which is crazy tight.
True.
And only 5 matches this week, and the Warriors do have the bye. The biggest matchup next week will probably be Bulldogs versus Broncos. The Bulldogs wanting to bounce back from that loss to the Panthers. The Broncos wanting to continue that momentum after beating the Warriors. They've won 3 straight, and they'll be hoping a win over the Bulldogs will push them closer to breaking into that top 4. At the expense of the Warriors. And then we also have Sea Eagles versus Rabbitohs, which will be a fairly close, even game maybe. The Sea Eagles, I think, are getting a bit better. And then Origin 3 is in Sydney next week, Wednesday at 10:05 p.m. Kurt Capewell is confirmed to be back in the Queensland squad after a good performance in Origin 2. That's a decider. If you can be bothered staying up till 10 o'clock, well, till midnight actually, to watch the whole game, highly recommend it. Origin's great. Specifically a decider.
This is true.
Mr. Dillon, we've already gone through the NRL. We're now up to the NZNBL, which had its penultimate round last week. We're entering the final round of the regular season for 2025 this week, but would you like to go over what went down in the world of New Zealand basketball?
Of course I would. So, like Simon said, this is the second to last round. We're getting into the last round, and it is heated up. Nelson Giants are on a tear right now, and they continue to go on a tear, winning 104-85 against the Auckland Tuatara. The Franklin Bulls get a much-needed huge win against Corey Webster and the Manawatu Jets, 106-69. The Tauranga Whai win a way too close of a game against the Otago Nuggets in Otago, 88-82, to keep their top 6 hopes alive. And then the Wellington Saints beat the Hawke's Bay Hawks at home, pretty much probably sending the Hawke's Bay Hawks out of top 6 contention, winning 99-81. Then the Auckland Tuatara beat the Jets by 3, key win for them, 99-96. Then the Taranaki Airs get the upset win over the Canterbury Rams, who are on a losing streak at the moment, 98-89. And then the last game of the round, the Tauranga Whai needed to win this, and they would have been in the top 6. Unfortunately, they could not get it done against I would say, the team of the season, the Southland Sharks, 98-88. The Sharks win, which secured their spot in the top 6. But for the Tauranga Whai, Mojave King did drop 43 in that game, although it was a loss.
That's 43
That's
in the
tough.
league is quite the achievement.
It's tough.
Hopefully he just wasn't shooting every time he had the ball.
Yeah. He was making them.
Yeah.
He was making them, so
he wasn't shooting like 20% from the field.
No.
For 43.
As a basketball player, to be fair, as you get older, you realize if a guy's making it,
Yeah.
you're all good.
You're all good.
But with a table update with one round to go, you could pretty much say the top. I would say the top four have solidified their spot. So the Wellington Saints are actually first right now over the Canterbury Rams, but they have secured pretty much 1 and 2. The Taranaki Airs, with their win over the Canterbury Rams, secured their spot. They are third. The Southland Sharks secured their spot. They are fourth. Shout out to them. They've had a great season. And then there is 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th are all competing for the 5th and 6th spot. So you've got the Manawatu Jets at the moment that are 5th. You've got the Auckland Tuatara that are 6th. You've got the Franklin Bulls that are 7th. Funnily enough, the two Auckland teams are on the exact same record. Then you've got the Nelson Giants and the Tauranga Whai with an 8 and 11 record outside of that. So, because I am a Whai fan, I'm going to give you the scenario of how the Whai could get in the top 6.
You go for it, bro.
And pretty much the Whai have to win their game against the Jets this Wednesday at home. It's the last game of the season, and they pretty much have to have the Auckland Tuatara, the Franklin Bulls, and the Giants lose, and they have to get up there on points difference, and hopefully they can. I'm not sure if it's I can't do maths.
No,
I can't do maths.
That's why we're here.
But that is pretty much how it would go down for the Whai. But shout out to the Giants. They made a storming run to end the year. They've put themselves, at least in this last day, to have a chance of being in the top 6. But in terms of games, it is a 1 and 2. In the last round. So you've got the Saints versus the Rams. The Whai, like I said, play the Jets. The Giants play the Sharks. If you're a Whai fan, you want the Sharks to win that. The Giants are playing at home, though. Then you've got the Airs and the Nuggets. Then you've got the Hawks and the Tuatara. If you're a Whai fan, you want the Hawks to pull off the upset there. You've got the Jets and the Nuggets. If you're a Whai fan, you might want the Jets to lose that, but it's probably not going to happen. And then you've got the Rams and the Bulls to finish it off, and I'm going to presume the Rams would beat the Bulls because the Rams will be looking for revenge. So there is a lot especially for those last 2 spots in the top 6, there is a lot of competition there, which is awesome for our game because it's going to make for some mean games that do mean something, unlike the NBA All-Star game of recent times. With that being said, that is the NZNBL. Yep. And go and watch some of these games, man, because they're going to be some great games with a lot on the line. You're going to see a lot of great basketball.
Getting into the business end of the NZNBL, also getting into the business end of the ANZ Premiership for netball.
Yes, sir.
The Southern Steel, a big win for them over the Waikato Bay of Plenty Magic, 65-56.
Huge.
And then the Central Pulse have returned to the top 3 after a big win over the Tactics, who are top of the table, 59-50. And currently, well, I don't think the game started yet, the Northern Stars are hosting the Northern Mystics in an Auckland, Northern Derby.
Yes, sir.
The Tactics, despite taking the loss, are on top of the table with 19 points. It is 3 points for a win in the ANZ Premiership, but there are bonus points. I'm not sure how they work. The Mystics are second on 18 points, but if they beat the Stars today, which is probably very likely, they will go on top of the table. The Pulse, like we said, are back in the top 3 with 13 points, but the Steel are also on 13 points in 4th. Then you have the Magic on 8 points in 5th, and then the Stars only have 3 points in 6th. So we'll see what happens there with, I believe, 2 games to go after this.
Hoping the Steel can get there, man, because the Steel have been in the dumps for a while as a team, and now they're competing for one of those top 3 spots. There's 6 teams. The top 3 go to a playoff and finals.
Yep.
So I hope the Steel can get there, man. I hope the Steel can get there.
Always great to see
no offense to the Central Pulse.
No, not at all. It's always great to see the Southern teams in New Zealand do well, like the Southern Sharks right now in the NZNBL.
Amen.
It's always good when the Highlanders are good, when you have Otago and Southland having good years as well. It's always good to see. And the only other sport we have here for local sport is football. And these are all things which have happened overseas but related to New Zealand. Auckland City pulled off the result of a century, of a millennium, a 1-1 draw with Argentinian giants Boca Juniors at the Club World Cup. This was not expected at all. No one expected Auckland City to realistically challenge in a game. But after that first half against Benfica in their second game, where they were only down by a goal, a lot of people were like, maybe this Auckland team isn't too bad. And keep in mind, this isn't the Auckland team from the A-League who did very well. This is essentially a local club team based out of Sandringham, who happen to be the best local team in New Zealand. Auckland Grammar PE teacher Kristen Gray scored the equaliser for Auckland City. They only had 26% of the possession in this game. They conceded 41 shots and only had 3 of themselves. The only goal they conceded was an own goal from their goalie Nathan Garrow, who's only 20 and has been sensational since he's played in this tournament. And this Auckland City team also has no New Zealand national team players at all. No one who plays for the All Whites is on this team. The last All White of note who played on this team was probably Auckland FC midfielders Cam Howison and Liam Gillian, but even then they're not consistent All White selectees. They've been in the squad for various reasons over the years. But now it's huge for Auckland City after losing your first game to Bayern 10-0 and then losing to Benfica 6-0. It must be nice to walk away with a point at this tournament. You don't go home with 3 losses. You go home with a goal scored as well. You go home with a result against Argentinian Giants, which is also means that Auckland City are actually undefeated against Argentinian teams because it's not the first time they've beaten one. They beat San Lorenzo back in 2014 when the Club World Cup was a shorter tournament, which was the tournament they historically finished in 3rd. After knocking off a couple of teams from other confederations, no European teams. And I think I've said this before, there's a great photo of former All Whites captain and at the time Auckland City defender Ivan Vajslic. I think he won the silver or the bronze ball at the tournament. And the other recipients for the gold ball and silver bronze ball were some random guys who played with his team in Spain called Real Madrid, called Cristiano Ronaldo and Sergio Ramos, which was...
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Just some random dudes.
Just some random dudes. Sergio Ramos actually at this Club World Cup right now with Monterrey in Mexico, which is really funny because why is Sergio Ramos playing for a Mexican team? Who knows? But speaking of the Mexican League, Liga MX, the Mexican League, has an all-star game every year with Major League Soccer, and there are a lot of Kiwis playing ball in America in Major League Soccer, and Michael Boxall's been there for a long time. The 36-year-old has been named, I believe he's 36, has been named for the first time in the MLS All-Star side, which is a huge accomplishment. One of the best centre-backs in the MLS at that age and from New Zealand. Excellent. He's been named alongside the likes of Lionel Messi and Jordi Alba. So a big selection for him. And that all about rounds off our local sport as we move over to the international side of things. And the NBA has been very relevant in the last week, despite the NBA Finals being finished, despite the fact the OKC Thunder have been champions for about a week now. We had trades, and we had the draft, which was a bit of fun to watch. Now, I will read off some of these trades here, and you're going to explain how relevant they're going to be.
Yeah.
We haven't named every single trade which has happened because there's always a lot. These are the ones of note featuring guys you've possibly heard of. Starting from the beginning, we saw the Boston Celtics trade away guard Drew Holiday to the Portland Trail Blazers for Anthony Simmons and 2 future second-round picks.
So that's a from the Celtics. That's pretty much a salary dump there. So Drew Holiday earning a lot of money and fairly so. But they trade him for a guy that's quite a bit younger, not as good defensively, but Anthony Simons can score the ball.
Yes.
So he'll probably be their 6th man in Boston, but that's definitely a salary thing there because they are right above that luxury tax.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a trade, a salary dump from Boston there. It's unfortunate that Drew Holiday had to be expended in that because I think he's a fantastic player. Still a fantastic player, but that's the reason why they made that.
He's had two championship wins in the last 5 years on 2 different teams, so I don't think he's probably complaining too much. No. One with Milwaukee, one with the Boston Celtics. And speaking of those Boston Celtics, they are part of another trade, a 3-team deal. So in a 3-team deal, basically, teams will move players away, sometimes to multiple teams, and will get players or assets from multiple teams.
Yep.
So in this case, the Celtics, the Hawks, and the Nets were involved. The Celtics receive Georges Niang and a 2nd-round pick. The Hawks get Kristaps Porzingis and a 2nd-round pick. And the Brooklyn Nets got Terrence Mann and the 22nd pick in the 2025 NBA draft, which I believe was traded away after that as well.
Yep, it was.
And so with this one, I know Porzingis is a big part of that Celtics team. I didn't realize Georges Niang was considered a replacement for Porzingis.
So here's the funny thing, right?
Is this another salary dump from the Celtics?
It absolutely is another salary dump from the Celtics. Kristaps Porzingis is also quite injury prone.
Yes.
Although when he was playing for the Celtics, he was good. So he joins the Hawks and Trae Young, which is a great veteran big to have around as long as he stays healthy. But this is another salary dump from the Celtics, or at least in my opinion it is. Niang has been pretty solid off the bench for multiple teams, quite a journeyman in the NBA, as we'd call him. But that's definitely a salary dump from the Celtics there. Terrence Mann as well, I think still a fairly young guy that could maybe develop into something there for the Nets. So that's that trade there. Another salary dump from the Celtics, which they really needed to do.
Yeah, because you don't want to be over the salary cap in this day and age as NBA, because you will get pinged like hell for it.
True that.
And the other trade, New Orleans Pelicans trading with the Washington Wizards for this one. The Pelicans trading away CJ McCollum, Kelly Olynyk, and a future second-round pick to the Wizards for Jordan Poole, Sadiq Bey, and the 40th pick in the 2025 NBA draft.
Yep.
So I know McCollum was balling out in Portland. He got moved to the Pelicans, where, he was supposed to form a really great partnership with the players they had on the team, specifically guys like Zion Williamson. And Jordan Poole was obviously a high-profile acquisition from the Wizards, from the Warriors. He came through with your boys at the Warriors. He looked good at the Warriors.
Sir.
But I have seen, just been constantly criticized on social media. I don't know if it's warranted. I don't know if it's genuine.
Can I ask what the criticism was saying?
Oh, that he's just not that good.
I think that's very unfair.
Yeah.
I do think it's when you play for a team like Washington, which in terms of NBA level,
yes,
is not a very good team, and hasn't been a very good team for a while. Even with Bradley Beal, when Bradley Beal was there, you could argue that was not a very good team for the majority of the time. But yeah, this one here, you're looking to pair up Jordan Poole, good young player, with Zion, and hope that works out. Sadiq Bey, solid player off the bench as well.
Still very young.
Funnily enough, for the Wizards, and I can't believe I'm saying this, it's almost a salary dump. Jordan Poole and Sadiq Bey are hooked on for quite a bit of money. CJ McCollum and Kelly Olynyk, I'm pretty sure, are both on 1-year deals, so they'll be gone.
That's good.
Next year.
Yeah.
And then you get some experience in there with some young guys there. Who did they pick with the 6th pick?
The Wizards.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't.
So Ace Bailey, who everybody thought was going to go 6th, the Jazz actually still picked him at 5.
Oh, was it?
Jeremiah Fears.
Jeremiah Fears.
Yeah. So that's a young
great
point
name.
guard down
great
there.
Name.
That is a great name. Another great name, Bub Carrington.
Bub Carrington.
That's another young guy down in Washington. Bilal Coulibaly is still there. Alex Sarr is still there. So hopefully you get CJ and Kelly down there, and they can, not coach those guys up because they'll still be playing, but teach them what it's like to be pro players, because those guys are absolute pros. So yeah, that's what I see as that trade there. Hopefully Jordan Poole can, instead of getting, and I hate putting it this way, but instead of getting useless buckets in Washington, which I love my Warriors to death, but Draymond Green, you were completely to blame for this. If you know, you know.
If you know, you know.
But you're pretty much hoping Jordan Poole can develop into something down there with Zion. So
yeah, you'd hope so.
Yeah, so that's the reasons I see with that one there. The Charlotte Hornets made a trade, though.
Yes, so Mark Williams, who was supposed to be traded to the Lakers earlier this season, but the deal fell through because of an injury, has been traded to the Phoenix Suns, who took a big in the draft. So this was a bit confusing for a guy I'd never heard of called Vasily Micic.
Micic.
And the 29th pick in the 2025 NBA draft, it turned out to be Liam McNeely, and the 2029 first-round pick. Just gives the Suns a more experienced center, which they don't have DeAndre Ayton anymore, so it'd be handy to have him.
And Mark Williams is a solid big.
He's solid.
I would have loved Mark Williams to be traded to the Warriors and have him starting at big. I would have loved that. 7-footer, does everything you need around the rim and defensively as well.
It feels a bit annoying for the Hornets, though, to lose a very valuable asset like him. For what I'm looking at is not too much, honestly. Like, I know obviously some players like Mark Williams, you're not going to get a lot in return, but
I think a little bit of this as well is they would have had to pay Mark Williams next year, I believe. And I think that was a big part of it for the Hornets. But Liam McNeely played at UConn at Connecticut, was a great player there. But the Hornets also did draft Con Knipple with the 4th pick. And
cool.
him and McNeely are fairly similar.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what the Hornets are going to do. But look, you get the first round pick in 2029. Who knows what that could turn into. So,
Speaking of the Hornets, I'll skip the next trade. I'll go back to it. But the Hornets were also involved in another trade. They have acquired Colin Sexton and a 2030 second-round pick from the Utah Jazz, and they've given away another big in Yusuf Nurkic. He's gone to the Jazz. So Colin Sexton, we know he's a talented guard. He was at Cleveland. Unfortunately, they had a lot of guard depth for Darius Garland, and then Donovan Mitchell ended up there, so he moved on to the Jazz, where he's now moved on to the Hornets, where he will link up with LaMelo Ball, with Con Knipple, and with all the other players on that team. I guess this is just a fresh start for Colin.
Yeah, Colin Sexton's been a pretty solid 6-man down there in Utah. Has been a starter as well, but pretty much since Keontae George, who's a young guy down there, point guard for the Utah Jazz, has been starting. Colin Sexton's pretty much been a 6th man. And the Utah Jazz, they do have Walker Kessler.
Yes.
Who's a great young big, who just signed an extension, I'm pretty sure as well.
There, actually, yeah.
But they do need depth behind him.
Yes.
And that's what the use of Nurkic would be there for the Jazz. But the Chicago Bulls do a straight up.
Lonzo Ball for Isaac Okoro of the Cleveland Cavs. That is, I know a lot of Bulls fans were like, we traded Lonzo for what? And unfortunately, almost I hit my funny bone there on the couch. Not lying about
clip that.
Not lying about this being
that.
CouchSide Network. Almost gave myself an injury there. Lonzo Ball, unfortunately, are dealing with a very nasty injury the last couple of years. I forgot specifically what it was.
Knees. It was knee.
Just chronic bad luck with his knees. I think a very gnarly condition, which a lot of people said like he might not be able to return from it. But he's supposedly on his way back. I don't think he played last year, but he was getting very close.
He did play a little bit of last year, last season. And he wasn't too bad.
Obviously, he's coming back from quite a series. We've seen a lot of guards from those not the same draft class specifically, but from that general time period who have entered the league and then just developed these very rare, niggling, very bad injuries like we saw it with Markelle Fultz.
Now that may be luck, but I also have an inkling feeling that's about the system in America in general. There is a lot of playing, almost too much. You've got to balance it out, which is why you see a lot of European guys and guys from outside America coming in and putting in work.
Because you see the European guys usually only play for one team. They go and play in an academy and they play, with that team and only for that team. Yeah, they might play in multiple tournaments, but they're playing a standard amount of games. In America, you're playing for your high school, but then you're playing in AAU, which I think is probably not doing a great thing for American basketball.
No,
all the AAU clips I see are just horrendous. And in terms of what they're promoting in those tournaments, but what they're allowing teams to get away with. And I think they just play way too much basketball, like you said.
You still got to play. You've got to have a feel for the game.
You got
when I was a basketball player, that I struggled with. I won't lie. Even still to this point now, there'll be times where I'll get robotic.
Yeah.
And you've got to play, but it's too much.
Yeah.
And AAU has become a thing which promotes something that I think is a good thing when balanced right, and that's highlight culture.
Oh yeah.
And I think highlight culture is somewhat ruining basketball
in America
and around the world, really, because everybody thinks they can be Steph Curry, go out, shoot the three. Steph Curry still started close and developed that range. So,
or you got guys who think they need to dunk on every single play, and
exactly.
They don't develop anything else, unfortunately.
Exactly, which is once again why academy European guys who are getting that experience are coming over to the States and putting in work.
Who are coming to Australia when they're young as well. You can see a lot of them slowly assimilating into the NBA and doing very well. We'll talk about the NBA draft right now. And
before you do that, this trade with Lonzo Ball and Isaac Okoro, Isaac Okoro, it looks Maori to me, Okoro.
Isaac Okoro.
Maybe he is Okoro, who knows?
Yeah.
But Isaac Okoro, that's another young guy. The Bulls are building up quite a young core
Very
there.
young
Giddy, Kobe White, they're building stuff down there, up there. And Lonzo Ball. So I have a feeling this trade is, so the Cleveland Cavaliers had Ty Jerome.
Yes.
Off the bench, who was fantastic for them. I have a feeling that Ty Jerome's going to sign a big deal. I'm not sure if he's actually signed an extension with the Cavs or not. I don't think he has. But he could sign a big deal. And I don't think the Cavs are going to be able to afford it.
No.
Because they'll have to eventually re-sign Evan Mobley,
Yeah.
Darius Garland, people like that. So bringing Lonzo Ball in, cheaper option, great backup point guard if he can get back to where he was.
Yeah.
So I think that's where that trade is there. So.
And I'll never forgive Mike Korzemba for telling us that he was going to be Stephen Curry with a 48-inch vertical back in 2016. If you remember, you remember.
Yeah, man.
But with the NBA draft, that was on Thursday and Friday, and to absolutely no one's surprise, Cooper Flagg of Duke, well, really from Maine, went first to the Dallas Mavericks, and as we also expected, Dylan Harper went second to the San Antonio Spurs.
Yep.
It got interesting afterwards. The 76ers did end up picking a guard in VJ Edgecombe from Baylor. Evan Hornets, like we said earlier, took Con Knipple, who was Flagg's teammate at Duke. And then Ace Bailey, despite refusing a workout with the Utah Jazz and not wanting to be selected by them, or Philadelphia, or Charlotte, was picked by the Jazz at 5th because Danny Ainge is a basketball terrorist and he will pick who he wants. I've quoted that from online.
Yeah, fair.
And so that obviously led an issue. The Wizards, who were going to probably pick him at 6th, went with Jeremiah Fears instead. And we had a number of picks. Shout out to Malawach, the center from Duke, who got picked at 10. He was absolutely feeling the emotions. He had came from adversity in Africa. I think they fled his family fled South Sudan because the conflict going on there.
Yep.
He ended up in America, ended up at Duke, and he's a top 10 pick now. Gone to the Phoenix Suns after it was the Rockets who initially drafted him. The NBA do this thing where there'll be trades in the week leading up to the draft, and it'll include picks, but they won't finalize it until after. Yeah. So you have a lot of times where players get traded or get drafted by a team, but they never go into that team.
Yeah.
But shout out to a couple of players. Chinese center Yang Hansen was predicted to go in the middle of the second round. Was in the crowd on Thursday when they picked the first round and got picked 16th by the ended up on the Portland Trailblazers.
Do you know who his agent is?
Who is his agent?
His agent is Rich Paul.
Really?
His agent is Rich Paul was put in work. So Rich Paul was also Kaman Malawak's agent as well. So he got picked 10th. Somehow got Yang Hansen. We'll say it like that, but it might be Yang Hansen.
But he has been averaging absolute buckets in China. He's only 20. A lot of people calling him Chinese Jokic. We'll see if those comparisons will work out. But I've seen a little bit of film from him, and he does look because he's like 7'2", 7'3". Seems quite mobile, like Jokic is able to put up shots wherever kind of. But we'll see if he can do it in the NBA. I'd love for it to happen. China deserves another big in the NBA after Yao Ming. And then 4 Australians, I just wanted to say, were picked in this draft completely, including a former NZNBL MVP and champion. Last year's
NZNBL MVP.
Can you tell he played for the Canterbury Rams? Lachlan Ulbrich, who was picked 55th, and he ended up at the Chicago Bulls. So interesting to see if he can get there. But also a Kiwi, or multiple Kiwis, I believe, have been named in summer league squads for the NBA coming up. Tate Jones, who we covered a few months ago, is with my Raptors. I believe someone at the
Niwa.
Niwa. Someone at the Breakers currently got named, or was it someone at another NBL team?
No, I think it might have been somebody in a... No, let's just say, I can't even think of the names on my head. Let's just say, like you said before, there has been quite a few Kiwis that have been picked up by summer league teams.
Who's the younger guy the Breakers have picked up for this season?
So you have Kareem Lopez, who would probably be a top 10. He'll be a top 10 pick next year.
Which is crazy. The Breakers, it wouldn't be the first time we've had someone go in the first round.
Yep.
A young Kiwi guy we signed, I'm pretty sure. is in Summer League, but I could be completely wrong.
Well, there's a few Kiwis there. So if you actually, you know what? You talk about these British and Irish Lions and this rest of this international rugby that we've got coming up.
Oh, yes.
And I'm going to find these names.
You'll have a look, sure. The British and Irish Lions tour is fully kicked off in Australia, but they took down the Western Force pretty dominantly, 54-7 in Perth. They will be in Aussie until the start of August, so it's a very long tour for them. They will face the 3 other Australian Super Rugby sides they haven't played yet. They'll play an Anzac 15, and a First Nations and Pacifica 15 in a game each, and then they face Australia in 3 tests. So a lot of high-quality rugby on the horizon in Australia. Will be a great tour just to watch as a neutral. This week they faced the Reds, in Brisbane on Wednesday at 10 p.m, and then they faced the Waratahs in Sydney on Saturday at 10 p.m. The first test is not until July 19th, and in preparation for the Lions tour, Australia will face Fiji this Sunday in Newcastle at 3:30 p.m. And do you have an update on the Summer League?
I do have an update on the Summer League. So we do have a few Kiwis. The young guy you were thinking of was Sam Meninga.
Yes.
Who played at Westlake, a guy I actually played with at one point.
Wow.
Before he got really, really good. So he's going to play for the Lakers in Summer League. You've also got another Sam from New Zealand, Sam Wardenberg, who's playing for the Cairns Taipans. He's playing for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And you've got current 5 player who just dropped 43 in a game, Mr. Mojave King, playing for the team that drafted him, the Indiana Pacers,
was
in
that
the
the
Summer
team?
League.
No, that was the team who traded for his draft rights during the finals.
Oh, who knows, mate?
Yeah, because he was picked by...
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Because the headline was like the Pacers are doing a trade in the middle of the NBA Finals, but it was just trading for the draft rights of Mojave King, which in NBA, you can be drafted by a team, but they won't sign you, but they'll hold your draft rights, and they can trade that away to other teams, or a team can trade for those draft rights. But moving back to the international rugby, the Springboks, South Africa, kicked off their international rugby season with another 54-7 beatdown, this time of the Barbarians, despite some big names on that Barbarians team sheet, mostly Kiwis. They were unable to prevent the Springboks from a very dominant performance. They'll host 2 tests against Italy and one against Georgia this July. Their first one of those games is against Italy this Sunday morning at 3:10 a.m. in Pretoria. Other games this weekend, Japan get to host Wales on Saturday in Kitakyushu. We've got Georgia taking on what will be a weakened island team in Tbilisi. And then Australia, that's not right, Argentina will host England in La Plata some point this weekend. I think that'll be a good game. The England team, I think, will still be fairly strong. And then other World Rugby U20 Championship news, as we talked about the New Zealand game earlier. South Africa absolutely tore Australia in new one, 73-17.
I thought Australia's under-20 team was... I know it's South Africa, they're different, but I thought it was good.
Yeah, they beat South Africa like a month ago.
Yeah,
in South Africa. So, yeah, it must be that Italian soil. France bet Spain 49-11. Can't say that one's too surprising. England bet Scotland pretty dominantly. Ireland only bet Georgia by about 7 points in a high-scoring game. And Argentina pipped Wales. The games do continue on Saturday morning, where all the games get played in a single day. We'll get France versus Wales, Australia versus Scotland, England versus South Africa, Ireland versus Italy, and Argentina v Spain.
Us versus Georgia.
And us versus Georgia, like we said earlier. The England v South Africa game will be very good. The test where South Africa rank against... Well, we know South Africa's good, but to see if they can dominate England as well, then it will be quite scary. And also how many points France put on Wales will be the same. Questions.
And I hope our baby blacks come out with a more clinical performance.
A more clinical, a cleaner, and more productive performance.
Absolutely.
And then football, so much has happened in the Club World Cup. We're not going to cover any of it apart from the round of 16, which kicked off on Sunday. We had an all-Brazilian affair, Palmeiras versus Botafogo. Palmeiras getting the win 1-0, but a bit surprising considering Botafogo bet PSG in the group stage, current Copa Libertadores champions, so Palmeiras getting a valuable win. And Chelsea defeated Benfica 4-1. And then this morning, PSG, I see, thumped into Miami 4-0, and I believe Bayern bet Flamengo like 3-1 or 4-1, maybe 4-2. That was, again, a bit unsurprising. The remaining games in this round are this morning, as this has been uploaded. You've got Inter versus Fluminense and Manchester City versus Al Hilal. And then on Wednesday morning, you've got Real Madrid versus Juventus and Dortmund versus Monterrey. The quarterfinals will be played on Saturday and Sunday. I know one of them is Palmeiras versus Chelsea, so I'm going to assume the other one's PSG Bayern. So some big games.
That'll be a big game, man.
Big games in the quarterfinals. It went off to the F1, and finally we get a performance from Liam Lawson we knew was possible.
Let's go.
After finishing 6th in qualifying, a lot of pressure was on him to keep that place in the main race. He was only a place ahead of Max Verstappen, and the other qualifying results, Lando Norris took pole, Piastri was in 3rd, Leclerc and Hamilton were 2nd and 4th, so great qualifying from the Ferraris, and Gabriel Bortoleto finished 8th in qualifying, which is big for him. Carlos Sainz all the way down to 19th, but we believe that is probably car issues because he didn't even start the race on race day, where Lando Norris remained in 1st, took the win, but Oscar Piastri finishing in on 2nd. So they'll be very close together in the table, but very valuable for McLaren in the constructors. Ferrari get a 3-4. Leclerc finished 3rd and Hamilton held 4th. And Liam Lawson managed to remain in 6th, which is very good for him. He gets a very valuable, I think, 8 points. He's now ahead of Yuki Tsunoda in the Drivers' Championship. Sauber got an 8-9 finish, which is massive for them. Kick Sauber. And then Verstappen, Albon, and Antonelli all did not finish the race, and Sainz didn't even start. I believe Verstappen and Antonelli was because of a crash between the two.
It looked like, from the sounds of it, I didn't know where I was getting up for this, but it looks like Antonelli cut across the entire the entire thing. It took quite a few people out. Sainz's car was on fire.
Yeah.
Fire. There's my voice crack.
Jeez.
So that's why he didn't even start. But great from Liam and the Kick Sauber guys. Bortoleto 8th, and then Nico Hulkenberg 9th was awesome. Hopefully Lawson can carry this on, but sometimes F1 and professional sport doesn't work that way.
No.
But we'll see what happens. But once again, this is further proof that that second Red Bull car is useless.
It's useless and it's cursed. And then moving on to the last bit of international sport, UFC, I don't think we've actually covered really in depth.
We haven't yet.
But I watched this card with a friend of the podcast, Stanley, on call yesterday. And that was actually, we knew on paper it was probably going to be quite a good card. And it did deliver. The main card at least. Youngster Peyton Talbot got an underdog win over Felipe Lima by unanimous decision. We got a fairly boring fight between Beneil Dariush and Renato Moicano, which Dariush won by United by unanimous division. And then we got
division
decision.
You know what? You sure you got this?
Oh, yeah, because I want to talk about this next fight, because this was the fight of the night, probably fight of the year in the flyweight division. You had number 1 contender Brandon Royval taking on a 23-year-old 12th ranked contender in Joshua Van, who is a Burmese-born, American-raised fighter. He's fought a couple of times in UFC. He's lost once, won the other games, but looked very, very good. And this was a bloodbath, basically. These guys... Van was just so quick. He was just hitting Royval so much. It's a miracle Royval didn't get knocked out. He almost did at the end. He got knocked down at the very end of this fight and almost went out, but he was saved by the bell. Between the two, 340 significant strikes, which is...
And they stayed up?
And they both did until Royval went down at the very end. Jeez. That's a record in UFC, by the way, for the most significant strikes in a match. So that will mean that Joshua Van, despite being the 12th ranked contender, is now going to be the next contender for the Flyweight Championship. He got to get in the ring after the Flyweight Championship match, which we'll talk about very soon. Unfortunately, however, for our boy Kai Kara France, it was not the day in the office that he wanted. Alexandre Pantoja, very, very scary individual. Submission specialist. You can't, he's going to take you down. You can't even try to, get away from it. And he submitted Kai a minute 55 seconds into the 3rd round. It's unfortunate for Kai. He came so long away to get back to the stage in UFC. I don't think he'll be finished. I don't know if he'll get back to having a championship rematch.
How old is he?
He's in his 30s. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought he might have been a little bit younger than that.
No,
but yeah, it's pretty tough,
I think he's in his 30s. It will be hard for him to get back because he'll have to work his way all the way back to getting a title shot, which is not easy in UFC. But after that, Pantoja did face off with Van. In that Van's fight with Royval, there was 0 takedowns in the whole match.
So it was literally just significant strikes
it was
the
just
entire
striking.
time.
And Pantoja is a guy who's going to take you down. So it will be very interesting to see how Van counters it against Pantoja. But I'd love for him to have a good shot at it. And then in the main event, for the vacant lightweight championship, which was vacated by Islam Makhachev a few months ago as he's moving up to welterweight. You had former featherweight champion Ilia Topuria moving up as he vacated that bout. And then you had Charles Oliveira, a former lightweight champion, facing off against each other. Oliveira, a bit old, but a legend in UFC. Rose from being a very average fighter to becoming a dominant champion. And he's still very good. Ilia won in 2 minutes and 27 seconds by brutal knockout in his first ever fight in the UFC at this weight. He is the best fighter in the UFC right now, without a shadow of a doubt. He is a double champion. Not a lot of people have ever done that. He's the only person to do it while undefeated, which is insane. I believe he's 17 or 18-0 now. He will face off, it looks like, after the end of the match, against Paddy Pimblett. Paddy the Baddy. They got in the ring, but Dana White wasn't too happy that Paddy got in the ring because I think he's probably got another idea of who he wants Ilia to face. Who that is, I don't know.
I guess only time will tell.
Time will tell, because I think Topuria versus Pimblett will be an excellent fight if it happens. Can Paddy not get knocked out? Because in 3 back-to-back fights, Topuria has knocked out the legendary lightweight champion and now featherweight. The featherweight champion who lost it to Topuria but got it back after he vacated, Alexander Volkanovski. Then he knocked out Max Holloway, the first time he'd ever been knocked out, a legend of UFC. And then he's now gone and knocked out Charles Oliveira, who's another legend, which is an absolutely insane CV to have. Who will beat Ilia Topuria? Who knows? But for the Georgian raised in Spain, just
tough, man.
Tough. So tough.
What are you going to do? What you going to do?
You're not going to be able to do anything.
Yeah.
Because he's just so good.
The only thing you might hope for at this point is if he goes up one more weight class.
Yeah.
And hope that that's too much for him.
Yeah.
Because nobody's been let's call it a triple champ.
In the men's divisions? Not recently, no. Or maybe. No, I don't think John Jones did triple because he was light heavyweight than heavyweight.
Yes.
And even then, he should have faced Tom Aspinall, but he decided he'd rather worth retiring instead. But that is it for most of the sport. But Dylan and I got up to a little bit of shenanigans.
We did, and I was going to ask you if I can do.
You can do this.
The intro for this one and
you
do
can
this
do this
one.
I will pass this on to you because I've actually talked a lot in this international sport.
We went to a fantastic event that I recommend anybody, and I mean anybody. I don't even mean just sports fans. I mean anybody I would recommend, and that was the local Aotearoa Wrestling.
Yes.
That's a promotion here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Aotearoa Wrestling's Matariki Rumble.
It was a lot of fun.
I was about to call it a pay-per-view. I guess we did pay to get in.
We did pay to get in.
But it's the equivalent of a pay-per-view for Aotearoa Wrestling. And oh my goodness, this was my first live wrestling event I've ever been to.
Same
you've
here.
been to? Oh, was that your first one?
Well, it's the first one I've purposely gone to. When I was a kid, they used to do wrestling at Armageddon, which I partially remember watching, but I don't really remember anything which went into it. So this, for me, was also my first real experience with it.
And oh my goodness, I think you'll agree with me.
Yeah.
Wish I had more money so I could go to more.
But they only have, I think, 2 or 3 events a year, so I think we'll be fine in that regard. But this was an awesome card.
So good.
Full of local talent, a couple of international guys in there as well, and a lot of matches. I believe we may have missed one, although we got there right on time. I think there may have been a dark match or a pre-match, which was between a women's wrestler called Mighty Maya and someone called Raven. But nah, this was great. It was at Pakuranga College, which is in Half Moon Bay. Doesn't make a lot of sense.
Welcome to Auckland, by the way. Auckland does that with schools and suburbs. We literally had this conversation as we're going back from the event.
We have this conversation all the time. But it was great, even though we thought we had parked in a prime place to be towed or clamped.
Yes, yeah.
Because I literally parked on a basketball court accessed by a gravel path. There were other cars there. That's why I parked there.
Yes, yeah,
we were saved. But this was awesome. We got there right in time, and we got to witness some 6-man tag team action, some tag team action, some singles action, and obviously a 30-person Rumble match, which I didn't realize was a Rumble. I thought it was just going to be a Battle Royale type of match where they all start in the ring at the same time.
It was sick that it was a Rumble.
It was a Rumble where you had 2 people start at the beginning and then someone coming out every 2 minutes. That was so much fun. And to see a Rumble, even though we didn't really know who was going to appear, a lot of guys who appeared in the matches before this one appeared as well, so it was good to see some recognition there.
Yeah, man.
So our first fight saw a villainous stable called Khan Capital, almost called him Khan Academy, which is the name of a website I used in school to learn how to be better at math. Shout out to Khan Academy, but Khan Capital with Anthony Khan, Maximilian, who got a lot of cheers from the teenage girls behind us,
fair.
and Troy Daniels, defeating a team. That's a bug which flew into my face.
That is a moth.
That was a moth.
But they did face team.
Why did this happen when we got the camera? Why couldn't this happen when we didn't have a camera? Dylan does not live in a shithole. Don't worry. It's New Zealand. Moths are everywhere.
That's a good point. But carrying on, they did face Team Aotearoa, which was made up of Kian. Was it Devlin or Devon?
Devon, I believe.
Devon, one of our favourites of the night,
Yes.
and also, as we find out, I'll talk about this later on, technically a friend of the show.
A friend of a friend of the show.
A friend of a friend of the show, Mr. Sonny Tupou, a.k.a. Tupou!
Tupou!
And Zach Hale in
Yes.
a 6-man tag team match. Unfortunately, Khan Capital, the heels, did win it, but
Yes.
boy, did they play that heel role supremely well.
Yeah, it was very good, and they played a major part in the Rumble later in the night. I believe Hale was Kiwi Punk, Zach Hale, right?
Yes, Kiwi Punk.
Kiwi Punk, Zach
Kiwi
Hale.
Punk.
I think very somewhat inspired by CM Punk, which I don't blame him. But that was a great opener. Like we said, Sonny Tupou with the energy. And
man.
Got the crowd going very, very quickly with just, how he presented himself in the ring, how quick he got going.
Yeah.
And that was just a great entrance to it all. But as you said, he is a friend of one of our friends of the podcast.
Yeah, man.
In the
RJ.
in the form of RJ.
Shout out.
And yeah, it's always a small world here that,
Yeah, true.
everyone knows everyone, and you're going to know someone who knows someone. But that was an excellent start to it all.
Also, let me just confirm something with you. Your dad went to La Salle, eh?
My father went to De La Salle.
Well, funnily enough, RJ went to La Salle,
I do.
which means his high school friend,
Yes.
Sonny Tupou,
Yes.
went to La Salle. So shout out to La Salle, man. De La Salle.
Shout out to De La Salle, my unofficial school of choice in the 1A competition in rugby, because
And RJ, I hope I didn't get that school wrong, but if I did, you were the one that told me.
no, me and RJ had a great conversation about De La Salle the last time I saw him
There
in
you
person.
go. Shout out to Sonny Tupou, man. He was awesome.
That was awesome. And then we had a tag team match between Hottest and Kingston Eclipse, defeating Dylan's favorite team,
My guy.
the Pretty Boys, made up of Magic Mark and Dylan's favorite wrestler of all time, signed him WWE, Pretty Richie.
AKA Big Sexy.
This is
as what his name should have been.
a very large man of Pacifica origin with shades coming up to Mariah Carey. It was a sight
We
to be
belong
seen.
together. So good.
And he, not just his wrestling, his entertainment in the ring was
good.
sensational. His what he was saying in the ring, because when you watch like WWE on TV or AEW on
You
TV,
don't get that.
you don't really get a lot of like wrestlers speaking in the ring. But in a live show like Aotearoa Wrestling, that's a huge part of it, is what you hear the wrestlers saying in the ring.
Yeah.
And people like Pretty Richie, like, they're very comedic in the ring.
They're so
like,
good.
Like he's able to come up with stuff on the fly, although
So
I think
good.
a lot of it is probably rehearsed. But he was great. He just snapped into character straight away.
Yeah, man.
And it was awesome to see this match.
All I can see in my head now, ding, 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 ding. So he came out to We Belong Together by Mariah Carey.
You can't say too much of it because we will get copy striked on YouTube.
This is a good point.
We will get
I'll stop it
copyright.
there, but man, he was awesome.
But that was great. And that was an awesome another tag team match to get the mood going. And then we had a match for the Aotearoa tag team titles where the reigning champs Wild Hunt, made up of Connor King and Jordan Macklin, defeated a team of New Japan Pro Wrestling guys, like guys who are still coming through and have been on exchanges. I think they've maybe wrestled a couple shows. They're not well known in New Japan, but man, they put on some good performances.
Oh, yeah.
Oscar Luebe?
I think it's Luebe.
German, Oscar Luebe, and Yuto Nakashima. These guys both had their characters down to a T. Oscar was billed at 6'7", not quite 6'7", but a tall guy, and really utilized his frame. And Yuto was just, a natural heel.
Perfect heel.
Perfect heel. Like, brilliant. Like, the amount of times he just middle fingered a child in the crowd was so funny. But they put on a great fight where they actually got out of the ring and were brawling right behind us. Like, literally.
Literally.
Like fucking slightly pushed us away.
Which reminds me, by the way, we did get some content. I say some content there. We did film some stuff there. All I've got to do, or all we've got to do, put a voiceover on it, and it'll be posted. So you will see a lot of this.
Dylan will do that in the next coming days.
Yes, sir.
But that was a great match, although Youngblood did not win. They are a heel faction, but they were very, very good. I was quite impressed by them.
They were very good.
And then we had a great singles match between Michael Richards and Pat Shizik for the Anzac title, which Richards held, and Richards took the dub here. This one was like pinfall after pinfall after pinfall attempt.
You had superplex off. You had a frog splash.
Yeah.
Oh man, it was awesome.
Very versatile match. A lot of moves on the mat, off the ropes. Very, very good. And then we had the 30-person Matariki Rumble. Also, Aotearoa Wrestling have an absolute dead ringer for Logan Paul in their ranks.
Kurt Brown.
Kurt Brown looks exactly like him, and his gimmick is almost the exact same. And he actually had, and I thought it was him, the guy in the black hoodie is local TikToker O'Shea Murphy. And I thought it looked like him. I was like, that looks like O'Shea Murphy, but he looked a lot younger in the ring. And then on Reels, I think, it was like, oh, I'm going to my first wrestling event. I was like, oh, so it was him. Because he took, because they actually did they interrupted a promo by Hanade, who is a actual well-known New Japan wrestler who has been out injured for a while. He did a promo saying about how he's been told he should look at retiring. He didn't say he was retiring. He just vacated, I think, a Northland championship. And Kurt Brown came out with his cronies trying to make a point. And O'Shea Murphy got attacked. Got headbutted by Hinade, which I couldn't think of a worse thing, honestly.
But he sold it, though.
He sold it well.
He sold it, man.
I'd love to be in that position, honestly, in the ring. Like,
big facts.
It would be awesome. My body
we'd hurt taking a bump.
It fucking hurt, bro.
But this Matariki Rumble, before we say who won it, had everything.
Yeah.
It had a character called Rangi, who was your stereotypical Māori uncle coming out with a mana waving everybody.
The kids loved him.
Yeah,
because there was a big group of, I think, teenagers behind us.
Yeah.
And they were absolutely on Rangi's side the whole time.
Yeah.
He was a great.
He was giving out hongies to the New Japan guys, the young bloods.
Yes.
Before they eliminated him. It was awesome. My guy, Pretty Richie, coming out and doing Pretty Richie things, aka Big Sexy.
It was very funny. And you had everyone who had wrestled basically beforehand come out in this. You had other wrestlers like the Barbarian, that guy with the face mask, whose name I forgot. Pariah. A lot of different guys. And then you had all the people from Khan Capital come up. And what they did, the guys who were in that fight, they came out and they set up chairs.
Yes.
And just waited outside the ring, because you have to go in the ring first before you can be eliminated over the top rope in a rumble. And then the last person came out, because there's actually 4 members of that team, and then they all got in the ring. But everyone was in here. We thought that Connor was it Connor King? Yeah, Connor King of Wild Hunt was going to come away with it, but unfortunately, Khan Capital's Ringo Ryan, who, when he came out for the Rumble,
please say this.
came out to the Rumble, he was like, I fought in important matches, we used to sing the national anthem here. And it's like, I will start singing the national anthem of New Zealand, and then he proceeded to sing God Save the King, which pissed everyone off. And shout out to that same group of teenagers behind us who in retaliation, sung their version of the actual national anthem. Full
awesome,
voice
dude.
after that, which was awesome to see.
And can I just say, if I ever go, we're going to another wrestling event, by the way.
We are.
The next time we go to a wrestling event and something gets asked about the national anthem and stand up for the national anthem, even if it's serious, I'm not standing up for one anymore.
Oh,
I'm not doing it.
Dylan.
Nah. I'm not as a proud Māori going to stand up for God Save the King again.
Oh, and for God save the king, but for God defend New Zealand. Come on.
I would, but yeah, they might trick us again, you know?
No, it might trick us.
But
But that was an awesome Matariki Rumble. Had everything. Had some good spots. Had some,
had a muscle off.
Had a
at one
muscle
point
off and
with a big sexy.
with our boy Pretty Richie. No, it was awesome. And then the main event, the current at the time, the current Aotearoa heavyweight champion James Shaw, accompanied
The divine
by
one.
the divine one, who had like a sidekick who wrestled in the Rumble, and then the Barbarian was also a part of this group. And then he had a guy who literally just was Pope Francis.
Yeah.
An older guy with like the thing on his head, like looked exactly like him, even came into the ring at one point and splashed him with holy water, which was quite funny. And he took on T-Hawk, who had been heavyweight champion previously.
Yeah.
And this match was great. T-Hawk's a aerial-based guy to a T. He was jumping off like the top rope very early on in this.
He wasn't only jumping off the top rope though.
No, because his big spot, and when I realized what he was doing in this fight, and where they got out of the ring pretty quickly and were fighting on the other side of the arena to, well, the sports
To
hall
where we were.
we realized that someone could be appearing on the balcony of this hall, and it was probably maybe 5 meters up in the air. T-Hawk suddenly appeared and proceeded to jump off. I believe it was actually onto a bunch of people.
It would have been. I think it was most, if not their whole faction.
The whole faction except the Pope, probably, because we couldn't see because of all the people standing in front of us. But I got a great video of it. But we both put videos on Instagram, which ended up getting reposted by Aotearoa Wrestling on Instagram.
Did they?
I don't know.
Mine did.
No,
I know yours did.
Yours did.
Did it?
Yeah.
No way.
Because I looked it up and I looked through all their stories and I was like, oh crap, yeah, that's a DC splash.
Yeah, because they reposted yours too.
Yeah, they reposted mine, which
Shout
was
out to Aotearoa Wrestling,
the only
mate.
clean angle they got of Hawk's just brilliant dive off, and he took the dub and took the championship. It was the second reign with the belt. The crowd were absolutely happy for him. I think
they gave him a massive haka afterwards. It was awesome.
It was great to see. And I think he had a lot of family and friends there, which just made it a bit sweeter. I'm sure the Divine one will be back for it in the future. But
he'll be coming down from the heavens, mate. Come on.
They did announce I've got the Aotearoa Showdown happening in Manukau in November. I forgot which date specifically. I tried to find
November the 8th.
November the 8th.
Pretty sure.
I think so. I tried to look at the website. It wasn't there. But it is happening at the Dewdrop Centre at in Manukau. Dewdrop. But I believe in the theatre in there. There might be two parts to it. I don't know. But that should be a lot of fun. It won't be a rumble, but it'll be another good card. And I cannot wait to go back to another event. They had merch on sale there, which you almost brought something.
I will be buying something next time.
I think I might too, because that was just awesome. And yeah, I cannot wait to go to another Aotearoa wrestling event, and also to just another local event in New Zealand, because Impact Pro Wrestling is still putting stuff on. You have New Japan's Tamaishi brand here putting on shows every once in a while in Mangere. You've got a academy out in Kumiu who do shows every week or two, where you can just go and train there, and then you get to be a part of the show. And you've got other promotions across the country as well, down south or even souther. So pro wrestling, if you can go to a show, just give it a shot.
Do it, man.
Most of them are cheap. Our tickets were technically premium seats. We had reserved seats four rows out from the ring. We're only $35.
They were pretty good.
It was very good seats, and I'd highly recommend it. Even if you think pro wrestling is a bit over the top, I feel like you'll enjoy it in person.
Yeah, it's entertaining as hell,
show.
and that's what it is at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
Like, and let me just say, for anybody that is like, oh, it's fake. Yes, once again, it is scripted. It is predetermined. But my goodness, you go there, the physicality is real.
Those hits are insane, and
the chops, man.
The chops, you hear them, and it's crazy. And they do so much to put on a good show. And yeah, I cannot wait for the next one.
I didn't realize, because I never would have noticed, because the Pakuranga College hall is quite big.
Yes.
But there was 1,000 people there.
Was it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Maybe they were exaggerating a little bit, but I'm pretty sure they said on there that they got 1,000 there. Which it didn't feel like
wouldn't
it.
surprise me. But yeah, it was a very good crowd with a lot of chirps from the audience. Some good, some I wouldn't say myself. But yeah, it was really good fun, and I can't wait to go to the next event.
Yeah,
and
man.
I'm sure you're in the same boat.
Absolutely.
And we only mentioned it briefly, but WWE did have a big event of their own on the weekend in Saudi Arabia, Night of Champions. No title changes from note at that event.
Except for Solo Sikoa beating Jacob Fatu for the US title with the introduction finally of Hikuleo, who is going to be called Talatonga.
That's going to get very confusing very quickly.
Yep. And Tongaloa did come back. The GOAT himself.
GOAT Tongaloa looked like that guy called Camacho. It's the same guy.
Yeah, exactly.
But they have Tamatonga, Tongaloa, and then Talatonga, which is a bit of a tongue twister.
Did you also see on Twitter as well? A guy who I don't know where he is at the moment, but
Zilla.
Zilla Fatu.
He's at Reality of Wrestling, which is Booker T's promotion.
Yeah, he posted on his Twitter an old telephone.
Oh.
Call him up, Jacob. Let's go. But that people have wanted him in WWE for a while.
Yeah, I think he's still getting there.
Yeah,
I also believe he is still on parole, which might be why he is he's publicly talking like this is my day in the life on parole. I think he's coming off parole, which might be preventing him from signing.
To be fair,
WWE.
Jacob Fatu was a guy that was a previous let's call it convict because I can't think of a better name. I suppose
he wasn't. I think he got released from jail and saw what his cousins, the Usos, were doing, and was like, I want to get into that
and fixed his life up. So hopefully Zilla Fatu can do the same thing. So.
Oh, and I think he's most of the way there already.
Yeah, man.
He's not recommitting, and he's doing his thing with wrestling. He'll be on WWE television in no time.
True that.
But yeah, Cody Rhodes, King of the Ring winner, another accolade for him. Jade Cargill, Queen of the Ring winner. So we'll have Cody Rhodes, I assume, versus John Cena at SummerSlam, and Jade Cargill versus, I'm going to say, Tiffany Stratton at SummerSlam, which will have probably a cash-in by Naomi, if I have to guess. But yeah, that is it, unless I've missed anything.
Nope, I think we're good. Before we go, shout out to Tupo and shout out to my guy, Pretty Richie, aka Big Sexy.
Shout out to the boys,
Yeah, man. Shout out to that whole show. It was awesome.
Shout out was awesome. But yeah, shout out to you guys, and shout out to you guys watching and listening all the way to the end. Like we said, if you haven't followed us everywhere you can, whether it's on Instagram, TikTok, or the other streaming platform that you're not listening to us on, go and subscribe, like, follow, whatever it is. Leave a comment on YouTube or Spotify to let us know what you enjoyed and what you want us to talk about next week, because there's a lot happening next week. We'll have All Blacks to talk about. We'll have a little bit of NRL. There'll probably be some shenanigans in the NBA. The tail end of the Club World Cup will be happening. We'll have the tail end of the NZNBL, as well as the penultimate round of the ANZ Premiership. And we'll have a lot more to talk about, I assume. But Dylan, thank you.
Thank you, Simon.
Thank you for another great episode of the podcast.
Let's go.
Thank you guys for watching. And until next time.
CouchSide out.
CouchSide out.